Dear readers, know that the strife and conflicts taking place at this time on Earth indicate the shifts of consciousness that are happening. The status quo is being questioned and no longer blindly accepted by an ever-increasing number of people. The innate self-serving goals of many three-dimensional standards are beginning to be recognized for what they are, and as more and more awaken, will be eliminated or transmuted to higher forms. Know that all is proceeding according to plan. Some refuse to let go of three-dimensional concepts now being recognized by many others as false. They continue to identify with what is familiar in the belief that their belief system is their identity, showing others who they are. These dear ones believe that they would no longer be the person they believe themselves to be if they were to change. This type of thinking represents separation and demonstrates the common human need to create an ideal persona based in the individual's concepts of what constitutes a good, bad, perfect, ideal human, illusion at its finest. Many continue to believe and promote that change and new ways of thinking will never be as wonderful as in the past. These dear ones live in the past, nostalgic for what they falsely believe were the good old days, not realizing that the past only seemed better because the same issues being exposed today were very much alive at that time as well, but were hidden. Never forget that those who remain fully three-dimensional are also divine beings. Your job is to live from your highest enlightened realizations in the ordinary moments of each day. Many of those choosing to remain rigidly attached to illusion will at some point leave the planet, as they will not be able to align with the higher dimensional frequencies. Do not overly concern yourselves with those choosing not to awaken at this time, even if the person is a loved family member or a friend. Remember, every person has a higher self, guides, and a spiritual contract, and this lifetime may not be their chosen time to awaken. After enough lifetimes lived in the illusions of duality and separation, every soul grows tired of the nonsense and begins to seek for more. Evolution can be postponed, but not avoided forever, because the reality of every soul is oneness with Source. Every one of you has experienced lifetimes mired in the sticky energy of duality and separation. It is important and necessary to have hundreds of different three-dimensional experiences before a person is prepared to let go and seek the deeper realities. That is how the ascension journey works. Everything you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell is energy. Everything is in vibration. The faster the vibration, the higher the frequency, the highest being pure light. Higher resonating frequencies cannot be seen with human eyes because the two frequencies, three-dimensional versus fifth and higher, do not align. This is why most people are unable to see their guides and beings from the higher dimensions. However, this is rapidly changing as the ascension process brings change to the personal resonance of every individual. There are some who have brought psychic abilities with them into this lifetime. They see ghosts and get information usually from the fourth dimension. Contrary to what many believe, psychic is not the same as spiritual. Psychic information flows through the consciousness of the individual giving the information and will reflect their level of awareness. Keep this in mind when getting a reading or body work from another. Seek out those who work from a high level of spiritual awareness and always trust your intuition. Earth is a spiritual universe filled with divine beings and governed by love, but what most see and experience are the false mental interpretations of this spiritual reality. This is why it is so important to practice non-judgment regarding appearances at all times. Example, rather than being shocked, repulsed, or pitying of someone with a severely deformed body, say to yourself, "Oh God disguised as a deformed body." This is unconditional love. We are not speaking of deformed fetuses. The soul does not enter a fetus at the time of conception as many believe. In preparation, the soul may come or go into the developing fetus during pregnancy, but many do not fully enter until birth. Unconditional love is a state of consciousness that is able to acknowledge the realities that lie hidden behind all appearances, It is a conscious realization of divine oneness, regardless of circumstances. It does not mean ignoring whatever human footsteps may be necessary, but does mean that these human footsteps are taken with a consciousness of oneness. Many of the negative situations you observe in others' lives are actually facets of that person's spiritual journey, experiences chosen by them, not consciously, as being necessary for their evolution. Even what is termed karma is an energetic reflection of energy given out, a learning experience and never punishment. God does not punish. God could not punish itself. Never forget that. All painful experiences are creations of the one experiencing and no one else. Consciousness is omnipresent energy. Energy is not good or bad, it just is. Everyone feels energy, although most do not understand what they are feeling. When you enter a place of heavy dense energy, you feel it and want to leave. These frequencies are commonly felt in bars, antique stores, and businesses that thrive on lower human instincts. When you enter a place where the energy is light and refined, you feel that as well. It resonates with you and you want to stay, commonly experienced in places of natural beauty or places of prayer and meditation. The state of consciousness of the individual determines the energy they align with. Those living fully in duality and separation, and who get all their pain and pleasure from this level, often enjoy being in heavy dark energy and frequent places of that density. Some go on to create their own situations of dark energy, satanic rituals, serial killers, and those who thrive on the pain and suffering of others. They feed from these energies because they are unable to access the inexhaustible source of energy within themselves. They have blocked their flow and need to find it elsewhere, outside of themselves. Always know that high energy frequencies of light are the reality, and that heavy low resonating energy cannot enter into the higher, because there is no alignment. Let this realization be your sword and shield in every situation. There exist many metaphysical protocols for protection, and most of you learned and have practiced them along the way of your spiritual journey, but you are now shifting into a higher state of consciousness where your light is the only protection you need. You no longer require rites and rituals meant to protect, lift you into the light, or bring you closer to God. These practices are based in beliefs of separation, and you now know that you never have been or ever could be separate from God. These practices serve newly awakening students of truth, and were important facets of your journey at one time, but at some point become obsolete. This is the shift from metaphysics into mysticism that you have been preparing for over lifetimes. Metaphysics is changing a bad picture into a good picture through the use of energy tools, mantras, etc. Mysticism is the realization that nothing needs to be changed, healed, or corrected. Let go of assigning power to anything that does not reflect truth, always remembering that God alone is power. You who read and resonate with these messages have been preparing through many lifetimes for a higher way of living, and are ready. There is nothing but God, divine consciousness, regardless of how the outer scene may appear. As you begin to acknowledge and live this truth, it becomes your state of consciousness and your lives will begin to reflect it, because you will be creating from reality rather than from concepts of duality and separation. We cannot emphasize enough that at some point, you must cease being the student and become the master. False ego-based humility will say, "Oh, I am not worthy." This type of thinking is impersonal and reflective of the unawakened three-dimensional collective belief system. Intellectual levels of spiritual study reach a place of completion, where one begins to be taught from within, rather than from some guru, book, class, or practice. There comes a point at which every individual must let go of the tools that served them along the way and begin living and being truth. It is every person's free will choice to stay in the illusions of separation, continuing to seek and search for some concept of God to save them. However, You have graduated and are ready to experience the infinity of consciousness not available to the human mind, should you choose. We are the Arcturian group,